Hi, I'm Tony, and welcome to my channel, Watch Time LA. Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of Watch Time LA. As you can see by the box, this isn't going to be a luxury watch presentation. However, it is going to be a presentation about a pretty cool little watch. I want to give you a little backstory here quickly. A friend of mine brought this watch to me and said, Tony, is there any way you can fix it? There was just a piece of a band on both sides. Spring bars weren't exposed. There was no digital display and no movement of our minute hands on this digi analog watch. And it looked to me at first like it was very old. It's a Casio watch. It has a screw down case back. It's pretty unusual. So anyway, I popped it open and it had a leaky battery. And I know some people say, well, if it had a alkaline battery, that's why it was leaking. And if it had a lithium battery, it wouldn't have leaked. But this had a lithium battery in it. It was probably the original lithium battery, and it leaked. And there's the misnomer that lithium batteries don't leak. Absolutely false. It just matters the quality of the battery. Lithium versus alkaline, they have a lot of other different features that you would want to take into consideration when using them inside a watch, but leaking is not one of them. If the watch is not stored and you leave a dead battery in a watch, as you've probably seen this in kids' toys and everything else. If you leave them in there long enough, they're going to leak, especially if they're under extreme conditions of hot and cold. Anyway, I pulled it apart. I put a new battery in it, nothing. I literally took it down to its component pieces. I'm going to show a picture of it right now. And you'll see I took the circuit out. I took every single component out. I cleaned it thoroughly. I retightened all the connections. And I got the digital portion to come on. It took quite a while. But I finally got the digital portion to come on, and it does work. However, the analog portion simply did not work. I went online. I didn't have to find the instructions because my friend actually had the original owner's manual from this. So I kind of gave up, and I found out if you go to the Casio website, there's a place called Hurley Roberts Service Center. It's in Norcross, Georgia, and they are the sole authorized repair center for Casio watches. They said that they would do a free estimate on it. Now, honestly, I just wanted the movement. I would have put it in myself, but they would not sell parts. So I sent it in for a free inspection. And let me show you what they said. They were going to do all of these things, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then we get to, well, what side am I on here? Oh. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Okay, so they're going to do all these things, and then we get to this part right here. Maintenance, movement maintenance includes a new circuit, $155.65. Gasket for case back area of the watch, $18. Water test, reseal, and certify, $17. So this 35-cent gasket was $18. They were going to check that the gasket was sealed when it was done through some sort of testing procedure, which, all right, I'll give them that. But the movement repair, now they just were going to repair the circuit on the movement, apparently, and that was $155.65. So the grand total on this for repair was $195 US. And I told them they're crazy. So they sent it back to me, and this is what they said, which I thought was interesting. The case and serial number, they gave me that. the Citizen Chrono Men's Watch, two-tone case with no band. It says, note, your watch was manufactured in October of 1992 and is 25 years old, if I didn't know how to do the math. Also, it was a very limited production watch, not sold in the USA. However, I know my friend bought it in the USA. Yes, you could purchase a replacement watch for as little as $29 and as much as $660. But if you want this watch repaired, and it will always be expensive to do, in part the one-on-one repair of the movement and the cost of maintaining parts and inventory for a quarter of a century. So, you know, I get part of it. I get they have to, you know, have a lot of inventory, but I don't know who would pay $195 to fix a watch that, even with whatever cost of living adjustments, it just can't possibly be worth that. Why is the spark plug here? Well, I had a problem with my generator. I did a natural gas conversion on it, and the darn thing wouldn't start anymore, and I couldn't understand why. And it was another one of those things where there was some sort of corrosion around the top of the spark plug. I've only run it for about 20 hours since it's been new. And I tried cleaning it off, and you know, I just couldn't get a good spark out of it. So just like this one, the difference is I got a brand new E3 double electrode spark plug for $5. So now my generator works. The watch, however, they sent back to me with Digi working, but if you play around with it and you try setting the time, sometimes the numbers start to freak out and go crazy. There's a couple of little diodes and stuff on there, but they're really miniaturized. If I could figure out what they were, the values of them, I might even try fixing it just for the heck of it, but I don't think I could find them. And like I said, they wouldn't sell me the movement, but if I could have found the movement, I would have popped one in here, like 25 bucks, 30 bucks, something like that. But even if they sold me the movement for 100 bucks, it would be not worth it. So what to do? He wanted a watch that was do everything similar, but didn't want to spend a fortune. So I did some looking around, and I found this. I figured we'd stay with the Casio. The boxing is going to be typical Casio. You have the see-through thing with the serial number, and about as cheesy a watch box as you'll ever find, right? Cheesy cellophane. Now, first things first, this thing has a 10-year battery. And this, by the way, is called the Casio Men's AW-80-1A2VCF Databank Analog Digital Display Quartz Watch. How's that for a mouthful? It has the world time, meaning you can cycle through almost, I think it's 30 different cities and see the secondary time down here. What else does it do? Well, it has a light, which we'll get to. It has two daily alarms, 24-hour, 1/100th of a second stopwatch. It will store 30 telephone numbers. You can store them in there by name. So obviously you could use it for other things if you wanted to use it for account numbers or whatever else you felt like doing. What else does this sucker have? So if you put it in this mode right here, obviously you can see the analog time and also see the day and the date and the year. It's 40 millimeters. Now, two places on the website it says it's stainless steel. I assure you it is not. And I'll show that to you later. Again, we have a 10-year battery. It does have this resin, typical cheap resin buckle, and it's good for 165 feet. So, and you could probably take it down a little further, but for just swimming and snorkeling, I think it would be absolutely fine. And he did want something he could use jumping in a pool or a stream or whatever he was going to be doing. And it has what it looks like a rotational bezel, but it doesn't. Now, what looks like stainless steel here is simply, and I don't know how close we can get here. I'm going to pop it off. How close we can get. But the only stainless steel on this watch is this. That's it. It would be really cool if they took something like this that was an all resin case, which this absolutely is. In fact, in some areas, you can see the white part of the resin. And all they did was they painted this with like a thick silver paint. And you've seen these type of watches. This silver stuff will scratch off after a while. It'll probably be scratched off of all of these high areas here that tend to get rubbed. Every bit of that will be scratched off. And it's just, here it goes from black to silver. And you can kind of catch it on your fingernail. So it's a pretty thick coat of silver paint on a black resin case. Now, how would this be really cool if they took the same piece of stainless steel here, something similar, and punched it out to the shape of that and screwed it on here, because this is where they're screwing on the band anyway. And they just screwed it on here. This, just for another few bucks, it would make it virtually indestructible. Now, it does have a cheap mineral glass crystal, and I'm not going to say you could tell it's cheap by doing this, but one of the problems is it's domed. And anytime you have a domed crystal like that, it's just going to get scratched like crazy. And you could just tell it's not real quality stuff. And it's the typical, you know, stainless steel punched thing in the back. And typical of a lot of these watches, Casio included, is just 4 screws. The case back ring is kind of shaped exactly like what you see here, a little piece of rubber, and it holds in there. It usually holds it pretty good. Now, I would never push these pushers underwater, but the thing I like about this is you can cycle through your, oh, by the way, that was your telephone number. This is position 1. I didn't put anything in there. But world time, you could just cycle through all the different time zones, which is really cool. So you just pick your city, London, Paris, and keep your home time zone there. And it's just as simple as clicking a button. Go back to your day and date, and then you could just go right back to your world time. It has a stopwatch feature, snooze features, and it's actually, I'm going to show you something here that you've probably seen on many of these watches. The instructions. So, you know, when you first look at this, you go, oh my goodness. That's number 1, and that's number 2, and then it just goes on and on and on and on. I'm trying to, you know, show you all this. That's page 1. And then there's page 2 for all the other functions, right? And I thought I was gonna go crazy trying to figure out how to set the analog time. It's actually not that bad. Very simply, you just push on this 6 times, it activates it, this will start moving, and then you could just zip around. It only goes in one direction. If you push 2 of these buttons, it'll go into a fast mode. If you don't, you'll just sit there and watch this go like this. So setting the time is not fast as far as once you get the dial going, I mean the hour and minute hands going, but it is very easy to adjust. You just have to have it in the time zone here, as it's displaying right now. As long as it's in there, and you press this 6 times, then you can adjust the time. It also has a daylight savings feature time deal on there. You might see that right there. So when that's on, it'll automatically kick the watch up or back accordingly. It doesn't do it by day or date. It has no idea of doing that. You just have to manually set daylight savings time. That way you don't have to go through the whole time setup sequence. It just adds or subtracts an hour. However, it does not do it on the analog part. So you still have to set the analog part to do the same exact thing. And remember, there's no way to back it up an hour. You have to go around 12 hours. There's no options there. Okay, so here we're looking at a close-up of the LCD display. And it's a little bit grainy, but you know, it has some pretty fine detail in there. So even under bright light, I have this thing pretty washed out under an LED light, and it looks excellent. So you know how some of these, the brighter the light, the worse they look? This actually seems to be the opposite effect. The outer chapter ring is easily seen. And if you look here, it's actually telling you what the functions are. There's the light, there's the search, which in different modes does different things. This is the actual mode, and this is the adjustment. So you can get away without the manual with this watch, which I was kind of surprised about, but I did have to look at it a little bit. And here's our map of the world. It has some applied indices. Let me see if I can focus in on that. Okay, so there's your applied indices. The hands, you know, let's take a closer look. Let's get that in focus. All right, so, you know, not the best finishing on the hands. There's obviously some lumen here. We're going to see what that looks like. My guess is it's not that good, but I don't know. There you go, applied indices all the way around, the numbers, and also the minor indices. Obviously, there's none down here. And I don't know why they needed to put that on there, that it was a 10-year battery. It's not going to matter to the guy who has a dead battery, is it? And one of the things you've probably noticed, this has no second hand. And here's our mode button, which is going to tell us Wednesday. And now you can see the daylight savings time there. Now if I switch that off or on, it'll go up and down an hour. Again, it will not move these. And then we're going to go to telephone numbers. And here is where it will display the different numbers. You can put in the name and then the telephone number, account number, whatever else you want in there. World time, snooze alarm. This is a stopwatch. I mean, that was, yeah, this is the stopwatch. Yeah, it didn't do anything. I was hoping that in this mode it would change, but it doesn't. And sorry when I move this around. But anyway, there you go. There is the face. It looks a lot better. Looks a whole lot better when you're looking at it than you're looking at it through the scope. Looks very grainy, but it doesn't look like that to the naked eye. We'll flip it around real quick. And all you see back here is, you know, let me get some of the light off of this. Okay, and this is the model number that they reference when you look up, like for instance, the manual. You would think that you would look this up, but no, they want you to put that in there because that, I guess they use this movement in a bunch of different watches. So they have one manual for all the different watches that have this movement in it. Case made in China, Japanese water resistant movement. And just before we wrap up and put it on the wrist, I am going to pop the case back off. Okay, I took it away from the scope because it's just not a lot to look at in here. The movement is very large. It takes up the entire case, or the inside of the case, I should say. This is a battery similar to like a computer battery. It's very large. And as a lot of these watches tell you, it says after battery replacement, contact AC with minus using tweezers. There's a couple little points on these that you, after you push battery in, you kind of short them out with a pair of tweezers, and it resets everything, like it was brand new. And you have to reset everything, the time, the date, and whatever. If you don't do that, sometimes it's very difficult to get the analog, digital, and everything to line up accordingly. So that's it. It has a large coin cell in it. They call it a coin cell because it looks like a coin. Like this one's probably the size of a nickel. And that's why this one lasts 10 years. And without you probably saw that tick right there. So the minute hand actually ticks. So it does save a lot of energy with only ticking once per minute. And without having to constantly spin around a second hand. So I'm going to put the case back on and wrap this up. Okay, so one last technical detail. This actually had a perfectly round O-ring. If you ever replace an O-ring, it's not only important to get the right diameter O-ring, it's also important to get the right thickness of the O-ring. If it's too thick, it won't seal properly. If it's too thin, it won't seal properly. Also, if you don't set that O-ring in the little channel that this comes in, and you tighten the screws down incorrectly, the O-ring will pop out here or here. The first time you put this watch underwater, or even maybe wash your hands, it will get soaked. These digital watches do not like being wet inside. No watch likes being wet inside, but these especially do not like being wet inside. So make sure that if you ever put an O-ring in and you're sitting this down, put in one screw, just start it, put in the other screw, just start it, and then slowly, like this, in a pattern like that, as you tighten them, and then just get them hand tight till the screw stops. Don't give it an extra twist because you're just screwing this into plastic. If you give it an extra twist, what you're doing is you're actually making it worse. You're stripping the threads, you're loosening it up, and it's going to get water in there. Okay, so we're going to do a quick loom shot here. We'll see what lights up and what doesn't. 1, 2, 3. Not too bad. Okay, so here's our light next to my Seiko SKX. I'm not adjusting anything on the camera, it's just the default. And now we're going to, it does have an internal light. As you can see, the loom is pretty poor. Let's see what the light does. Okay, so the light makes it very legible. It only stays on for however many seconds that was. No matter how long you hold it, it goes off. So it won't even give time for the camera to focus, barely. Okay, so like the spark plug, sometimes you just gotta get a new one. And this is the case with this particular watch. I mean, if it had some huge sentimental value, and he said, I gotta have it because my great-great-grandfather, and he was a general, and, you know, whatever, you know, I guess then, you know, you spend all the money on something. But in this case, you just do this. You get a watch that has infinitely more features. I mean, it holds 30 telephone numbers, 40 millimeters in diameter. It's probably around 13 to 14 millimeters high. I didn't check it actually. It's got a great Casio movement and has more features than you could shake a stick at. So what did I pay for this? 19 bucks. 19 bucks on Amazon. You take this watch with you around the world. You don't have to worry about it getting stolen. You don't have to worry about anything. You lose your phone. And you need to call someone in an emergency, you know, who knows if I don't even know my home phone number anymore. You'd have it right here in your watch. I mean, I'm going to probably get one of these for myself. It must be the most practical watch that I've looked at to date. But anyway, I highly recommend this watch. I have no, obviously, way of knowing longevity, but I will follow up with my friend in a little while. 6 months, a year, whatever. But with a 10-year battery, the only thing I see happening with this silver is going to get all scratched off. This crystal is going to get scratched pretty badly. But I'll bet you 10 years from now, the digital display will still be working. Anyway, there'll be links in my show notes. There'll also be some links occasionally through the video up here. Little business, I sell watches on eBay. Go to my eBay store. It's ebay.com/watchtimela, or go to my website, watchtimela.com, and see what I have there. I'm also an Amazon partner. You'll get the same great deal as you do on Amazon, and you'll be helping out the channel if you decide to pick one of these up or any of the other Amazon products that I have advertised. And with that, if you like this review, please remember the only thing that keeps me going is you. If you like the videos, please make sure you like it below. Please make sure you comment. And most of all, subscribe. Your subscriptions are what tell me to keep going. Anyway, from Los Angeles, California, it's Watch Time LA. Thank you for spending your time with us once again.